Besides his height, he was a serious Navy SEAL. It appeared he was chewing. As he looked at her, he noticed her stack of flyers. Siobhan noticed a crumpled flyer in his fist. "Do you seek this man?" he asked after glancing at her. During a routine diving expedition with her marine ecology team, mom, diver, and marine professor Siobhan Gray found something that had been lost for years. Her discovery's mysteries enticed her to seek more answers. A terrifying choice. Siobhan's Simon Fraser University Marine Ecology team was diving off Bamfield, near Vancouver Island's west coast, one morning. Siobhan and her team started their dive with a specific goal, but their dive was about to change. Siobhan saw something on the seafloor while swimming in the clear ocean. It looked artificial. Hard edges and a leather strap waving in the current. Intrigued, she swam down. She lifted it from the sand after further inspection. A round lens shocked her. Camera. Algae and sea life completely covered its rusted metal exterior, making it look old. She would soon discover how long it had been there and why. Siobhan carried the rusted camera in her pocket and researched. She kept thinking about her pocket. Siobhan revealed her findings after all her divers returned to the boat. Everyone looked at the find, but unlike Siobhan, they weren't interested. Siobhan knew this camera was more than it seemed. If you like my videos, don't forget to like or subscribe. Thanks in advance. She took it back to her lab to investigate, unaware that she had started a shocking discovery. As a marine professor, Siobhan was fascinated by the camera and its surface fauna. Siobhan was fascinated by the tiny ecosystem on and inside the camera when she opened it. She found a sea cucumber, 2 brittle stars, and many algae species inside. There was more. The camera's memory card was Siobhan's next concern. It survived. Her curiosity was insatiable. She hoped the black algae-covered SD card worked. Better yet, could she identify and track the owner? She didn't know he'd vanish. "Is there still an image on the card?" Siobhan exclaimed. She couldn't contain herself when discussing the card's potential. Siobhan carefully cleaned the memory card with an earbud and rubbing alcohol. She put it in her computer. Holding her breath, she crossed her fingers. Success! The 8GB Legger Platinum card worked and had many videos and photos. Relieved, Siobhan. She felt like a snoop as she looked through these private memories, but she couldn't stop. Then she noticed. Photos and videos from 2012 showed various people at various gatherings. Despite its excitement, looking at the photos felt wrong. She decided to examine these photos to find the owner. She saw him while putting the pieces together. She glanced at many photos of different faces. She noticed a pattern. One man returned. He kept appearing after she finished. She had to find him. She didn't know where to start. What would she do? Siobhan had to find the camera's owner. She had no idea she was about to reveal a secret. Siobhan decided social media was her best bet for finding this man. She tweeted photos with the hashtag #HashDetectives_unaware. Photos received hundreds of comments and retweets. Despite the photos' popularity, nobody came forward. She tried another approach. Siobhan wasn't finding the camera's owner on Twitter. She printed and posted the photos around the coastal town where the camera was found. After posting the poster in a cafe, Siobhan felt watched. She heard boots shuffling across the road as she walked from the cafe to another wooden pole to post another poster. She turned to see a Navy SEAL following her. Tall and serious. He glanced at Siobhan and her flyers. Siobhan noticed his clenched hand as he approached her. As he approached, she saw a crumpled flyer in his hand. He tore down her poster. She looked at him curiously, too. He reached out and asked, "Are you the one looking for this man?" before she could ask him why he tore down one of her posters. Siobhan said she was. "You don't know?" he asked. When he explained the man's mysterious disappearance, Siobhan was confused. She sought Vancouver artist Paul Burgoyne. The Navy man told Siobhan his wife was looking for him. He disappeared while fishing until the Navy found him. He disappeared for unknown reasons. Siobhan was intrigued by this information and kept digging. 2 years later, Siobhan received a call that solved the Paul Burgoyne mystery. The Navy officer found his phone number to find out where he was. Siobhan asked if he reached anyone to send her contact. She answered the private number unaware of the caller. He was thrilled, she said. When he got off the phone with the Coast Guard, he and his wife were laughing a lot and mentioned how lucky he was. Siobhan understood what happened to him and why the Navy was involved after hearing his harrowing story. Paul was very lucky. He told Siobhan about losing his camera. Paul sailed to his Tarsus, British Columbia summer home on the 20th of July 2012. Until bad weather hit, his trip went smoothly. His boat hit rocks due to rough seas. The crash took his camera. Paul's boat shattered against the rocks. Paul developed hypothermia after being stranded in freezing water. He was lucky that nearby guests saw him and called the Coast Guard. He was rescued and returned to shore 6 hours later. Paul was grateful to be alive, but the wreck destroyed hundreds of his belongings. Despite his pain, he accepted what happened. His camera broke him most. After receiving the Navy officer's call that his camera was found, he couldn't believe his luck. Paul's family reunion photos were unusual. They were taken when his family scattered his mother's ashes. The photos reminded me to be grateful. He nearly died the night he lost his camera. Siobhan carefully backed up the SD card before giving it to the officer. She laughed. Paul loves having his memories back. He never expected to see those bittersweet photos again until fate intervened. Lucky Paul. Next week, Paul sent Siobhan a sweet email. He told her he had spent the week restoring his memory card to retrieve some damaged files. The old man was thrilled to regain some of his memories. Because he had spent years missing his sea-lost possessions. Framed some of his favorite photos. As he regained his life, his wife was happy. He thanked her and promised to contact her. Siobhan was glad to hear Paul was regaining his old self. But her heart stung, her mouth dried, and she swallowed. She remembered having all his camera photos on her laptop. Siobhan became moral. She needed Paul's permission to view the photos. Why did she keep them on her laptop? The exhausted diver mom looked at her laptop at her table. She debated viewing the photos. Her explorer nature. Her expeditions yielded the camera. Like her other finds, it was a treasure, evidence of her underwater activities. She organized and stored her finds. The pictures were a stranger's. Do what? Siobhan made herself a cafe mocha. Her favorite coffee helped her think clearly when making tough decisions. She returned to her table, thinking. Nail-tapping the laptop. Pondering. One more look before I delete. Thoughtfully, she opened the laptop. She watched the blank screen as her laptop started up. She did what? She thought. That poor man had endured enough. Why are you digging into his past? She shouted at herself. Her desktop had the file folder and the laptop was on. Bamfield camera. She hadn't named it Paul. It felt like her discovery. She promised to delete them after one last look. Siobhan clicked open. In. She missed seeing thousands of photos. She didn't like Paul, but she thought she found his camera for a reason. Family photos, holidays, sea dives, underwater photos, and his mother's ash scattering ceremony followed. She skimmed the thumbnails rather than opening them all. Siobhan noticed a row of pictures. All blue. First image opened. It showed a beautiful coral reef underwater. Siobhan immediately saw a connection. She dived there hundreds of times. He dove in her favorite spot. Conserved area. Those waters required diving permission. Paul, Navy SEAL and professional diver. The underwater photos piqued her curiosity. This was Vancouver's west coast. A giant corporation's illegal dumping and mining case protected it. The pharmaceutical company was fined for illegal mineral extraction and ocean dumping. Siobhan, a top marine professor, was asked to help Big Pharma's case. Her job was to study marine and coral life and monitor environmental damage. The legal case lasted 3 years. Lack of evidence prevented a verdict. False. Siobhan's tests showed water pollution and oxygen depletion. Siobhan knew Big Pharma had the best lawyers. She couldn't defeat them alone. The devoted marine professor knew she had succeeded. She kept the pictures because of this. She thought it had something she had to see. She scrolled through the similar pictures. She sought coral, fish, pollution, and plastic. Something conclusive to end this case. Hundreds of underwater photos lined up. She guessed Paul spent over an hour there. Click click, more fish, a deformed fish, poor thing, more pollution, click click. Her screen-focused eyes were drying out. She was tired, so maybe she was wrong. She considered deleting the file. No Navy or police for me. I'm busy enough. She saw it after tapping her laptop. Large blue container. Toxic waste drums. Cafe mocker nearly choked Siobhan. Finished. Several pictures were similar. Polluted water blurred her images as she searched for a company name or signage. Siobhan zoomed in and found it. One photo showed company logoed red tape. Gotcha. Siobhan triumphantly lowered her mug. Exhausted mom sighed. This case kept me busy for years. She finally had proof of her long-held theories. The smart woman quickly copied and saved the photos in a separate file. She had to organize and present this information in court after the hard part. She called Paul for backup. He'll understand, she thought. Siobhan called Paul to explain. Paul told her he had trouble with Big Pharma and had to hide. He believed someone wanted to kill him. He tried to forget to move on. He realized that the camera returned to right the world. Paul helped her in court. He would testify with Navy support. Siobhan was relieved that this terrible case would finally be resolved and the parties would receive justice. The environmental team also helped Siobhan find new evidence. She believed she could fight the law with facts and integrity. Criminals would not escape. They would pay for ruining her beautiful marina. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again in the next video.